We will volunteer that the vaccine reaches every nook and corner of our country.
Well, with one eye on consolidating Jio's presence in digital and the consumer tech space and another on spearheading India's foray into the 5G age, Reliance Chairman Mukesh Ambani laid down the roadmap for India's largest conglomerate at its 43rd annual general meeting. The AGM, held online for the very first time in the company's history, served as a launchpad for the company's aspirations to establish Jio as a digital and telecom behemoth. So let's very quickly take you through the key announcements. Right up front, Google joins the Jio party. It will invest 33,737 crore rupees for a 7.7% stake in Jio Platforms. The investment by Google is the 14th in 12 weeks and takes Jio's total fundraise to over 1,52,000 crore rupees. Remember, this makes Reliance the only company in the world to boast of Facebook and Google as strategic investors. What's interesting is that the Jio-Google partnership could shake up the mobile phone market, with Reliance Chairman Mukesh Ambani announcing that Jio and Google would join hands to develop an Android-based operating system. The OS will be used to power Jio's entry-level 4G and 5G smartphones at a fraction of a cost. That is the promise made by Mukesh Ambani. He also sounded the bugle on the company's 5G vision. He said that Jio is ready with a world-class 5G solution, which can be deployed and launched in a year's time once spectrum is available. He also added the Jio platforms would be well-positioned to export 5G solutions post the India rollout. This could potentially stir things up in the global 5G race as China faces the heat, with both the US and UK deciding to snap ties with the likes of Huawei. Telecom aside, Reliance Chairman also laid down the blueprint for Reliance Retail's expansion. He added that the company will induct global partners and investors into Reliance Retail in the next few quarters. He also said that JioMart's rollout has been accelerated. Mukesh Ambani also threw light on the proposed deal with Saudi Aramco. He said the deal has not progressed as per the original timeline due to unforeseen circumstances, and added that Reliance Industries is committed to a long-term partnership in that space. Well, a made-in-India 5G solution, a vow to manufacture a smartphone, and a tie-up with both Google to build an Android-based operating system. Those are just some of the big announcements that have come in from the Reliance AGM as the company transforms itself into a digital giant. Joining us now on this special show, Professor V. Kamakoti, the member of the National Security Advisory Board. Also with us, R. Chandrasekhar, the former Telecom Secretary and the former NASSCOM President. Let me also welcome Sandeep Naik, the Managing Director, India and Southeast Asia, the head of General Atlantic, one of the 14 investors in the Jio platforms, Sanjay Kapoor, Telecom Consultant, and Pankaj Mohindroo, the Chairman of the India Cellular and Electronics Association. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us here on the program. Sandeep Naik, let me start by asking you, because you are one of the investors who have bet on the Jio platforms. General Atlantic has picked up a 1.36% stake in the Jio platforms. The significance of Facebook, Google, and a dozen other marquee investors like GA who are clearly betting on what this transformation could mean, not just for Reliance Industries, but potentially for the digital economy in India. The significance of both these behemoths joining hands with the Jio platform, Sandeep.
Shireen, as has always mentioned to you, that India and Digital India is all about going after the Bharat consumer and solving the needs of the billion-plus people in India. Now, the way large platform companies have been built is you need a platform that already has a large base of subscribers. And if you once have that platform, you can build the digital products and services on top of it. Reliance Jio offers such a platform with almost 400 million subscribers, on which you can truly build the products and services that can democratize Digital India and bring those products and services to a whole host of consumers. And that is the underlying opportunity. If you look at some of the global strategics and why people like Facebook and Google have partnered with Jio, is India is the only large billion-plus market that they can truly enter and be a part of. China has been shut out for them. There are no other large untapped markets that are currently available for them to access. And for them to access this market, they have figured that Jio is the best platform play for them to bring their resources and really come up with the digital society of India. that will play out over the next several decades.
Yes, rightly put. This is that large opportunity that companies like Facebook and Google are betting on. In fact, this is the first investment for Google as part of that India Digitization Fund that Sundar Pichai spoke of just a day ago. But let me bring in Mr. Chandrasekhar into the conversation as well. Mr. Chandrasekhar, to the point that Sandeep was making there, the effort to democratize the digital economy. Let's talk about the ecosystem effect now. Here you have Jio getting on board Facebook and its entire ecosystem, which also includes commerce, social, and of course payments. Similarly for Google. So you now have these two ecosystems that are virtually going to be connected through the Jio platforms. What do you believe that could mean in terms of this democratization impact that Sandeep spoke of?
Well, first of all, the whole scale of this agglomeration that has been put together is quite staggering, both in its scope and the ambition level. And I think it's also recognizing the times that we are in, and there are heightened concerns regarding security, alongside a huge opportunity and the need for investment. So a lot of these companies, I mean, Facebook and Google, have had a significant presence in India for several years, maybe well before when Jio platforms came into existence. So I think their investment has to also be seen as, while continuing to tap the market in areas that they are already in, to hedge their bets in terms of, number one, spreading their footprint in telecom sector on which the opportunity is based, and also betting on Jio platforms and the Jio network being a critical piece of India's whole digital push and the indigenization push. So if there's an indigenization push, then they want to be a part of it and not left outside, especially after some of the decisions to China, for example, which is always lurking in the background. So I think that in terms of the democratization...
So what I'm picking up on... So what I'm picking up from you, Mr. Chandrasekhar, and it's an interesting point that you make, that for companies like Facebook and Google, this might in fact be enlightened self-interest. This is also about their own growth and expansion in a market like India.
Absolutely. I think that, they would be, quite, I would say, expectant about the direction in which the India market will proceed. After some of the restrictions that were put on all the Chinese apps, and they were out. And then there is, a continuing debate with regard to privacy of data, with regard to Indian data leveraged for India's growth. Yes. So we are looking at all of these developments, and without being 100% certain what form and shape the whole regulatory environment will take. But certainly it would be, at the very least, supportive of Indian platforms. And therefore, this whole push towards both 5G as an indigenous technology, which is a critical piece, as well as OS. So I think they are all aligning themselves to be a part of the indigenized Indian platform, and thereby participate in that opportunity, irrespective of the contours of the entire regulatory ecosystem in the country. And of course, Reliance Jio and the Reliance Group being what they are, that partnership, I think, they see as being not only consistent with this hedging, but also complementary to their existing position in the market.
Yeah, so a hedging strategy as well on part of companies like Facebook and Google as the regulatory landscape evolves. But let me bring in Mr. V. Kamakoti as well into the conversation. Mr. Kamakoti, you're a member of the National Security Advisory Board. When we last spoke to you, you were very clearly concerned about what was happening with China and the fact that Huawei and other Chinese providers perhaps should be kept out, for instance, of the 5G trials. Now, while India's so far hasn't taken that decision. We've already seen whether it's the US or UK going down that road. In fact, the UK just yesterday making that announcement of severing ties with companies like Huawei. Secretary Pompeo just last night also once again stressing and reiterating the need for clean companies, in his words, to sever ties with Chinese providers like Huawei. Now, here's Mukesh Ambani coming in and saying the Jio platforms, I'm quoting him, will be positioned as an exporter of 5G solutions to other telecom operators globally. What do you make of this and the possible shake-up that we could see in this race?
Thank you. This is one of the best announcements as a member of NSAB I could ever imagine. It has come at a very right time. It put to rest a big question, sometimes very irritating, whether India can do its own next generation communication network. My answer has been so far, every forum that I have talked, yes, we are capable of doing it. And the prime reason, as I had been mentioning, is that, when we look at the 5G, there is a radical difference. There's a very big difference from the previous communication networks and the 5G, specifically from the point is that there are a lot more of software running on commodity hardware that is possible. And that was one of the prime reasons that, as a major software developing nation, we will be in a position to roll out the best 5G products. And today, this announcement from Jio is really important. And this will actually build a very big ecosystem. And the second important thing that has also come out is the OS and also the handsets. Because the security is not just the game at one end, but it is ranging from the end user equipment, that is your mobile phone, to the cloud, to which the data actually passes. And I think at every stage, there is going to be an indigenization, and there will be an access to the source code, and we would have the software completely under our control. Though even if we import the hardware, the software would be the most important criteria here, and that will add a lot more to the security. So this is a very interesting and very important announcement.
So you're saying it's a very important announcement. Let me ask you this, Mr. Kamakoti, as a member of the National Security Advisory Board, and while we are still awaiting a decision, an official decision by the Indian government on whether Chinese players will be kept out of the 5G trials or not, the question is, in this mission of Atmanirbhar Bharat, do you believe that there could be preference given to an indigenous solution, which is what 5G, which is what Reliance and Jio platforms is now claiming to provide, because there are other non-Chinese players as well? Do you believe that as a member of the NSAB, you would say that preference should be given to an indigenous solution?
Absolutely. The preference should be given to a trusted solution. And a trust essentially comes when we have a complete access and a complete control over the software and the hardware infrastructure. And in that context, certainly an Indian solution will give us much more control than any foreign solution. So from a security point of view, the control over the source code, the control over the the hardware, the control over everything that is going to be part of the system, there are many small subcomponents. That is extremely crucial, and certainly an indigenous solution is going to be a much preferred thing from a security angle.
Okay, a much preferred solution if it is Indian from a control perspective. That is the view of Mr. Kamakoti. But Sanjay Kapoor, let me bring you in, and let's start by talking about this issue about 5G, because this is now a potential new opportunity as far as Jio is concerned, saying that, look, we can provide this service, whether it's in India or globally, to other telecom service providers. Sanjay, how do you see this shaking things up?
So, Shireen, I don't think at this stage what I heard, I know enough to really peel the onion. 5G is a very broad arena. It's a new set of technologies which are around access, which are around transport, which are around backhaul. And there are many components to it. So when somebody says that we have a 5G stack, is he saying that he has a 5G stack to integrate 5G applications and use cases in his environment? Or is he saying he's got a whole new technology to be now a Huawei equivalent to compete with Huawei and Ericsson and Nokia in the rest of the world? So I don't know which of the two statements is right. But if you were to imagine that the Huawei statement is right, then that's a very, very big statement. Because the size of those companies...
That seems to be the implicit suggestion, Sanjay. That seems to be the implicit suggestion. While, yes, we don't have the nuts and bolts, but that seems to be the suggestion.
Well, if that's the suggestion, then, the play over there is a very different play. That's an enterprise play where you go and work with 800 operators of the world, like Ericsson does, Nokia does, and you compete with them and compete with Huawei in the rest of the world with best possible solutions applicable, and then research and development for 6G and 7G happening alongside. Now, if that happens, then the biggest dichotomy that you face is, can you be an operator and an infrastructure provider at the same time in the same market? Because if you are the infrastructure provider, why would your competitors buy equipment from you? So none of the infrastructure providers is an operator anywhere in the world. That's a unique model. So, we don't know enough. We are imagining. But if the play, like I said, is really a Huawei Ericsson play, then the world market has already consolidated. There are only 3 in the market. And if an Indian player can become a global scale player like Huawei did, that's a game changer for India going forward for many, many years.
Yeah. Yes, it could potentially be a game changer, and you're right to point out that we need more details on that. But Mr. Chandrasekhar, to the point that Sanjay was making, what do you make of the announcement that's come in from 5G? And if I go back to the speech, as I quoted what the chairman of Reliance, Mukesh Ambani, said very clearly, that seems to be the aspiration. Jio platforms will be positioned as an exporter of 5G solutions to other telecom operators globally. They've also, incidentally, got on board Intel and Qualcomm as partners on the Jio platforms. What do you make of this, Mr. Chandrasekhar?
Yeah, I think there are 2 operational words here. One is 5G and the other is solutions, not just the technology or the hardware. So I think that there are a couple of things here. One is we all know that 5G is a fairly advanced technology. And if you start from ground up, then it's certainly going to take anyone a long while to catch up with where the state of the art is today. So the question is, while it is certainly packaged as an Indian 5G technology or a 5G solution in terms of the telecom part of it, clearly it's going to be with the help of certain partners. Now the question that really arises is, what is the extent of the indigenous technology? We all know, for example, that while Huawei is talked of as Chinese technology, they also depended to some extent on chips which are coming from the US. So we'll have to really go a little deeper into this question and then get into what exactly is this Indian 5G technology. And I think it makes sense what is being attempted strategically to build on the shoulders of others and partner with others, but retain control. What Professor Kamakoti said at the sort of strategic or philosophical level is playing out at the commercial level here. To retain commercial control. The second thing is, you talk about solutions. So it's no longer just about telecom, it's about the whole package, you know, the telecom, the solution, hardware that is optimized for certain solutions, be they in healthcare or energy, you know, Industry 4.0. So for all of these, one foresees combination of hardware and telecom and IT, and putting all of these together, essentially built around an indigenous OS, which again is similarly built through partnerships, and the Android based OS and Google's role indicates that. So I think that is it's a staggering level of ambition, but one which is very much in keeping with the time. And I think that there will be a lot of collaboration. I do not think that the indication is that it will all be done indigenously by Reliance in-house, but it will build this kind of a collaborative platform in a commercial sense to create the technology platform that we are talking about for all the solutions which can be taken as complete solutions all across the world. And that's something which the IT sector, Google, Facebook and others have already been looking at India as the creator of solutions using these technologies which match the needs of developing and less developed economies, as well as in many cases, the developed world itself. So I think it's a fusion of all of these coming together, crafted extremely skillfully and with a very long-term vision in mind.
Absolutely, it will be a long-term play, and you're right to point out that this is not just about investment. In fact, the Reliance chairman Mukesh Ambani pointing out that this is not just about money, but it is going to be about convergence and collaboration. And to the point that you were making specifically on the issue of 5G, the investment from Qualcomm and Intel, albeit smaller in comparison to the pecking order of investors, Qualcomm putting in about 730 crores, and I think Intel putting in about 1,894 crore rupees. I think small in comparison, but it is what they bring to the table in terms of value that will also be crucial when we talk about building out these collaborations. But let me also bring in Pankaj Mohindroo into the conversation. Pankaj, 5G was one of the big announcements. The other big announcement was what Jio is hoping to do in partnership with Google to try and shake up the handset space. Now, this is interesting because it also comes at a time when the government has announced that big PLI scheme. We're talking about Google and Jio getting together for a Android-based operating system. Mukesh Ambani saying that we're going to be able to provide entry-level 4G and possibly 5G phones at the fraction of a cost. Again, details needed, but what do you make of the plans there, the aspiration there, and what it could mean for the competitive landscape?
Shireen, this is not a all brides are beautiful moment, and I'm just not going to say happy things. It's a very significant announcement. Professor Kamakoti would be the most pleased. I can see the big smile on his face. Now, this, when we set out the National Policy on Electronics 2019, our handset market was all of around $21 billion. We ended up with about 2 lakh crores of handset market last year. So $27 billion. But we anticipated, and the number for 2025 is $80 billion, which is about 6 lakh crores. So that is a 3 times jump in 5 years. Now, does that ever happen? No, it doesn't happen. From consumption of 1% of GDP in 2020, we are talking about consumption of 1.6%. So we were expecting something to happen. And this is the right catalyst. You see, India suffers those 150 million feature phones still because of affordability and because we have not been able to provide solutions. And we have been late. We were late in 3G, we were late in 4G. So all this, India has suffered digitization, and we are, all responsible for that, that we could not accelerate it. So this is a very important movement for the handset industry and in the history of the handset industry. So what happens? You see, the requirement for deliverables on the smartphone is going up. So you no longer want, cosmetic type of smartphones. People want good smartphones. So therefore, the transition which was going to happen from feature phones to smartphones, Jio tried very valiantly to bring something in between, but that transformation has not happened as yet. So a technological leap is what is essential, and I think if we all put it together, we have the right incentive package now, which is for the global industry also, and the right package, the PLI scheme. All these partners, I'm sure something very exciting can happen. And competitive landscape, don't worry about it. You see, a big disruptors are the people who grow the market. And this three times growth,
Yeah.
2 lakh to 6 lakh crore.
No, I'm not worried at all. I'm asking you, I'm not worried about the competitive landscape, Pankaj. What I'm asking you is, do you believe that this could do to the handset market what Jio's launch did to the service market with shaking up penetration and subscription growth, as well as driving down costs?
The expectation of the consumer is quite significant now. We see very robust growth at that 10,000 level. In fact, even in the COVID, we are unable to supply those handsets because of the supply constraints at the moment. The 10,000, 12,000 is the real sweet spot. We thought earlier that, we could bring down the cost to 4,000, 5,000 and the market would take off. So the second-hand market also is showing very strong demand in the higher quality, mid-quality smartphones. So this will really require a very, very vigorous work to put all this together. And I'm sure it can happen. I'm sure it can happen. Now, the competitive landscape, you have the premium products, then you have the upper middle end, and then you have the feature phone. The entry-level smartphone is more or less, a vacant market. So to transition people from the feature phone to the entry-level smartphone, at what level that will happen, that will require a lot of support. And on 5G, you see, when you are ready with the product, what Sanjay said that, this is a very different, it's a paradigm shift in how telephony is deployed, how digital industry is deployed. So in that case, then when you are ready for that, here the investment which a consumer would like to make in a handset would go up very significantly. Even with 4G, people are ready to invest a lot more because they are seeing the value. But 5G becomes very different. So an investment of, say, 10,000 rupees in a handset with 5G is very, very doable for even a poor person. He'll put in his entire month's salary into that. What we saw in China, you see, when 2007-8, when China was growing at 16-17%, 3G was there, and people were investing their whole month's salary in a smartphone. Entire month's salary.
Fair point. No, I get the point that you're making. Let me bring a quick word in from Mr. Kamakoti before we take a break. Mr. Kamakoti, on what the announcement is and what the aspiration is as far as the handset side is concerned, and to the point that was being made there by Pankaj Mohindroo, what are you going to be watching out for? Do you believe that this is going to be that big inflection point, the big disruption, perhaps, that this market was also waiting for?
So one important thing that could come out in this whole venture is a plethora of applications that could be launched along with things like healthcare, etc. And the other important thing is that they could add much more of the peripherals, the new varieties of peripherals that could come here. Not just camera, but much more. As I agree with Pankaj that 5G is something traditionally different from 4G. It's not 4G plus. It's not just the communication, but there are much more things that could come up in that from an industry 4 point of view, etc. So that could be a change in the way we conceive the handset, and that is going to be, I think, this venture will be sort of the front leader for that type of a change, and that could be a real shaking point. This is what I'm anticipating from this entire thing. So to not be a conventional phone, 4G phone, but something different than that.
So watch out for the plethora of applications that could change the way that you use your smartphone beyond what we're already doing today. Gentlemen, I'm going to take a very quick break, but don't go anywhere. We're going to be back. There's lots more to talk about, lots more to discuss. That and more in just a moment.
Introducing Bharat Bond ETF by Edelweiss Mutual Fund. You can now invest in AAA rated public sector bonds with just 1001 rupees. Choose between short or long-term maturity. Remember, offer closes 17th July. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Presenting the all-new Harrier 2020 with panoramic sunroof, 6-speed automatic transmission, 170 PS Cryotech diesel engine. Experience the thrill of power and the comfort of automatic. Harrier 2020. Test drive now.
Where there is life, there is hope, there is meaning. But life has its downs as much as its ups. Life is about challenges. Life is about opportunities. Time for joy, time for celebration, and time to introspect. Thankfully, in every one of life's moments, and even beyond life itself, there's LIC. Where there is life, there's always LIC. Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi.
Conquer the future with immediate, actionable ideas to stay agile and stay ahead of the curve. That's the Thought League, where decision makers forge your future. Join me, Nisha Poddar, to get a telescopic view on matters of importance as you navigate through different business cycles. Here are the ones who inspire new thinking for unparalleled outcomes. Leading corporate law firm Cyril Amarchand Mangal Das presents CNBC TV 18, The Thought League.
Presented by Cyril Amarchand Mangal Das, ahead of the curve.
घर में फैमिली की डिमांड्स और ऑफिस में काम की इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के लिए टाइम कहाँ मिलता है? मिलता है क्योंकि मेरे पीछे SMC है. SMC, money wise, be wise.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Hey, new car? Huh? नहीं AMT है bro. सुना तेरा गिटार नहीं दिख रहा है यार. Hey, come on!
Now with AMT, Renault Triber, space for everything.
Renault, passion for life. A monk who trades, an MCX IPF initiative. Please do not put your phone inside your helmet.
I will talk on the way. Saves time.
Fine time.
Stop. Can I see the citizen's face?
See, sir. I am wearing helmet. Law-abiding citizen.
Not helmet, but helmet.
Oh, my new phone.
Respect the law, and it will respect you back. Do not indulge in unauthorized trading activities, which are both risky and illegal.
For those who've always put others first, here's a bank that puts you first. Introducing IDFC First Bank. Open a savings account and get up to 7% interest. IDFC First Bank. Always you first.
Well, we're discussing the big announcements that have come in from Reliance AGM's 43rd annual general meeting, and a lot to do with the future of the Jio platforms and the aspiration of a digital economy for India. Sanjay Kapoor, let me come back to you now. And in light of the many announcements that have come in, there was also the claim being made there by Mukesh Ambani that, look, this will spell the death knell as far as 2G is concerned. We're convinced that we will ensure that 2G is dead. Now, Sanjay, as we move forward, and given the precarious nature of the current state of play for the other telecom companies in India, how would they be watching what has been announced today?
Yeah. So, Shireen, let me answer your 2G question first. 2G is an inefficient technology given the day and age of 4G and 5G, and both Jio's competitors in the marketplace, and BSNL, MTNL, they all understand that price equation, that it doesn't make any sense to operate 2G or 3G in this environment. But despite their best effort, like Pankaj also mentioned, there are some guys who are sticking on to 2G because they're only voice users. They don't understand data. They don't deal with smartphones. They don't have the capability of dealing with smartphones. And there are apprehensions for them to move, and therefore it's taking long. This is not a problem in India. This is a global problem. Even in developed parts of the world where there are $30 customers and not $2 like India, they are unable to shut their 2G and 3G. So the world has now taken a position on announcing termination dates for 2G and 3G in many parts of the world, where 3G incidentally is being shut before 2G is being shut. And this is a dilemma that the whole world is facing. That's because the resistance to give up 2G phones is more than the resistance to give up 3G, because 3G was a halfway house. It was neither here nor there. It was neither good for voice all through, and neither was it good for data at all. And therefore, it was easier to give up 3G, and 3G smartphones got replaced with 4G smartphones very, very quickly. And now the world doesn't produce 3G only smartphones.
Our screen TV channels have always played an important role. We have the majority of TV channels integrated within Jio TV Plus. For decades, this content has been
I think we're getting the audio of the AGM. Yes, go ahead, Sanjay.
Interactivity.
It's difficult to speak like this.
Let me show you how.
Yeah.
Let me try and. Yeah, let me try and see if we can fix that. But let me go across to Mr. Chandrasekhar on the point that was being made there by Sanjay. Mr. Chandrasekhar, we've now got a play towards 5G. We don't know when the auction will be held. The expectation is perhaps by the end of this calendar year. And of course, this big claim by Reliance Jio saying that, look, in light of what we intend to do with 5G technology, we foresee the end of 2G. How do you read this? Okay, we will take a break. We're having some connectivity issues. We'll take a quick break and return with more. Stay on with us. We're back in a moment.
नई AMT है. Winner gets to drive.
ओए, ये cheater रुक!
Now with AMT, Renault Triber, space for everything.
Renault, passion for life. Get an insightful look at India, poised to become the talent hub and the financial center of the world.
India is the office of the world. How achievable is this idea?
India has an opportunity to be the front office and the back office for the entire world, where the world is our oyster.
India has all the raw material that is required for this big idea. It has got the talent and it has got the mindset. We need to be bold and we need to act fast.
Stay ahead of the curve with powerful ideas and strategies from the best leaders. Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas presents The Thought Lead at these times.
9 to 5 job, arey 5 to 9 job, bhag daud, all the time job. The roaming wala job, the deadline wala job, or are you living in the market wala job?
Life is full of options. Choose a job and earn on your own terms. Choose to become an LIC agent. It's more than a job. It's career insurance. Be your own boss. Be an LIC agent. Ab life set hai.
Presenting the all-new Harrier 2020 with panoramic sunroof, 6-speed automatic transmission, 170 PS Cryotech diesel engine. Experience the thrill of power and the comfort of automatic. Harrier 2020. Test drive now.
Now more than ever, it's important to celebrate the achievements of unstoppable entrepreneurs who are rising up to build a better world. At this year's first ever live virtual award ceremony, Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, India, was announced as the EY World Entrepreneur of the Year 2020. for her trailblazing work in biotech.
I hope that we just keep on celebrating entrepreneurship.
For those who've always put others first, here's a bank that puts you first. Introducing IDFC First Bank. Open a savings account and get up to 7% interest. IDFC First Bank. Always you first.
चाहे खरीदना हो अपना घर या हो रिटायरमेंट के लिए फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग, मुझे फ्यूचर की कोई चिंता नहीं, क्योंकि मेरे पीछे SMC है।
SMC, money wise, be wise.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Okay, ballet, salsa, or key?
Ballet.
Thank you.
Are you sure that was ballet?
The all-new 6-seater MG Hector Plus. It's a human thing.
Well, we're talking about the big announcements that have come in from the 43rd annual general meeting of Reliance. Sanjay Kapoor, I want to talk to you about, where this leaves things as far as Bharti and Vodafone is concerned. Vodafone, of course, facing an even more uncertain future. But if you were in the captain's position at Bharti, how would you be reading the developments that have taken place today?
Look, Shireen, one thing that you have to grant to RIL is that they have taken away the thought leadership and initiative from the market completely. I think their imagination, the magnitude of the vision clearly has outdone everybody else that they compete with. I say that with one breath, and with the other, I will say that, however, all the deals and partners that they have got on the table are non-exclusive to them. They are not exclusive. In fact, the equation is a very complex equation where a lot of these guys in their camps, the biggies, will actually be collaborating and competing with each other at the same time. So can you imagine, while Jio will be making a stock Android solution with Jio to establish a smartphone with them, they'll be competing with WhatsApp for WhatsApp Pay and Google Pay. They'll be competing with Azure for Google Cloud. So all that will be happening alongside. And I'll be absolutely surprised and perplexed if these guys will not work as much with Airtel and Voda Idea and BSNL and MTNL. Because they all come from a frame of things where winner does not take it all. And they come from a frame of stuff where they cannot be walled garden with any partner. They are an open platform. They will remain an open platform, despite of their investments. Yes, the advantage that Jio is going to get, according to me, is they are going to get preference on certain projects that they will design together. They'll have probably access to more technology. But wherever there is a glass wall and there is a distinction between this investment and how Google and Facebook operate in general, I think those distinctions will carry on. So I don't think Voda Idea and Airtel will have to worry on that count that these guys will not work. That is one. The second thing is there will be now more people getting attracted to India because these guys coming to India have opened up a plethora of new partnerships that will come to India. Now, because the hurdle rate for Jio has gone up, you have to make a very significant amount of valuation and investment to come into there. So automatically some others who might be lesser will go and join hands with Voda, some will go and join hands with Airtel. And there'll be many permutations and combinations that will emerge. But one thing for certain, that India is going to be a hot destination where a lot of global players who will value add to the Indian digital system will now come into India and see value in India. That others will also get their collaborations and their value-added partners is a given. I don't think they'll be deprived of partnerships in the marketplace. So I think they'll be okay. If you look at financially now, of course, Jio is in such a sweet spot right now, They are at a place where they are absolutely zero leverage, and they have now got money to invest into future technologies. They've got the right partnerships. Airtel's balance sheet, a little stretched, 3 times, their EBITDAs, but I would say they're still in good shape to get into 5G. It was to happen tomorrow. The problem is with VIL, unless until the AGR case really gets announced, their continuity is going to be in a limbo. And of course, even if they survive, then they'll be a distant third player in the market, the way I see. So I think very clearly the jostling is for the future space going to happen between Airtel and Jio, where Jio today is definitely at a vantage spot.
Yes. A two-horse race, and Jio, as you point out, well ahead at this point in time, given the fact that we've also seen that promise of being net debt-free coming in ahead of schedule. But Sandeep Naik and Mr. Chandrasekhar, let me get the two of you to comment on what this could mean as far as the startup ecosystem is concerned. And to the point that Sanjay was pointing out, it is going to be interesting to see, because these are collaborators in one sense, but also competitors. Now, a lot of the, Indian startups who are watching what has happened with today's developments, the guys who are in the education space, the guys who are in the video conferencing space, and so on and so forth. Sandeep, how are they going to be reading these developments, and what could it potentially mean for some of them?
Shireen, we have invested a lot in consumer tech as well as in startups in the country, and especially in education. We have an investment in Byju's and Unacademy, as well as in some of the other consumer tech plays. Jio is an ecosystem that will be in a position, given their customer base, they can build a lot of products and solutions, but not everything can be done at one go. Not everything needs to be built by Jio themselves. And there will be more collaborations and partnerships that you will see going forward, even within the ecosystems. I think the one smart thing that Reliance has done, and what Sanjay was alluding to earlier, is that they have built the digital railroads of this country for people to build products and services on. And there will be certain tracks that they would want to completely own themselves. And there's a stated intent that they want to go in a big way in, obviously, the commerce side and the retail side, which they are best positioned to do, given that they also have Reliance Retail at the back end. They want to own the content side and the entertainment side with all the content play that they currently have. And obviously, financial services, which makes a big part of India's GDP, is a sector that they would love to penetrate and figure out how they get market share, right? On everything else, there is an ecosystem to be built, but do you want to be the one building it all? I don't know. I don't think that's the grand vision here. They would get into multiple partnerships to really enable the startup ecosystem. So as a startup entrepreneur, if I'm sitting here right now, what Jio has done with the penetration of smartphones, as well as really making data so affordable and probably the cheapest in the world today, it has actually been an enabler for the startup ecosystem, because people can now come with products and services and really penetrate the deepest markets of India, where any customer that's aspirational can reach out and use your product and services, which would not have been possible if Jio hadn't really connected the whole of India, right? Otherwise, you'd have been stuck to a market of 50 to 100 million people. You today have the entire market of about 1 billion people open for you. So it is a massive enabler to the Indian startup ecosystem. And I think this is going to help build companies that will be worth tens of billions of dollars going forward.
Yes, everyone is talking about what this could mean in terms of multiples, not just for Jio, but for potentially other companies as well that could be collaborators. But Mr. Chandrasekhar, just to the point that Sandeep was making, and Mr. Ambani pointed that out, he said that there will be no better partner than Jio for Indian startups. Now, we've seen a bunch of acquisitions being done already by Jio since its launch. What do you believe will be the significance, given the fact that, you've now got Facebook, Google, that ecosystem, the Jio platforms ecosystem, and what this could eventually end up meaning?
Well, Shireen, I think experience shows that innovation still happens in small companies. Scale and size, for some reason, bring their own set of compulsions, which makes innovation more difficult in such a large organization. So a lot of the innovation that you see even in companies like Google and Apple is actually innovation which has happened outside and then been assimilated into these companies. The second reason is that what we see in the digital environment is that a dominant position in one domain or one market can actually spill over and give you competitive advantage in a completely adjoining domain. What this means is that the true value of innovation of a startup actually needs some large platform like this to be able to monetize its true value, the true value of that innovation. So in two senses, I think this is positive for the startups. One is that there might be hopefully a greater willingness for domestic investment also to flow into the startups, which has not been the case so far. 80% has been foreign. Second is, if you look at a lot of the startups in certain countries like Israel, if you ask the startup what they want to be when they are grown up, they say we want to be acquired. That's their ambition. So here is a target which presents you, an acquisition route. If it is focused on the domestic market, including partners who will help if it is focused on a global market. And since, as Sanjay was pointing out earlier, agreements are not exclusive, it also ensures that there's a certain level of competition, because if it's a global product, a Facebook or a Google might be interested in directly acquiring it themselves as opposed to this route. So I think all of this will introduce a very, very interesting dynamic which can only be good for the startup ecosystem. And the fact that there are multiple players who are both in a collaborative and competitive situation actually makes it more interesting and provides more opportunity as well. And a lot of the,
let me get wrap-up comments from each of you.
Yeah, a lot of the solutions which Mr. Ambani talked about actually will involve not just the technologies that are being talked about, but also innovation from startups which are combined with these technologies and then offered as a complete package. Incidentally, that also solves the, to some extent, the problem that Sanjay was referring to, that the availability of these packaged solutions end-to-end with natural language processing can change in terms of how people who today look at a phone as only for communication, for speech. When you look at all these kinds of solutions being available through natural language processing, then a lot of such people also would see the merit of using a device which is 5G enabled, because it then becomes a window to so many other things.
Sure. Absolutely. In 10 seconds, let me give each of you wrap-up comments. Pankaj, let me start by asking you, what will you now be watching out for, given the announcements that have come in?
See, guys, you missed the Jio glass, the mixed reality. You missed that. Imagine a farmer with a Jio glass or with something like that, with holographic 3D. India has more arable land than China. And we produce half of what China produces in agriculture, right? Can you imagine what digitization will do to agriculture? I mean, that somebody is putting his weight and his money behind this, it's an absolute game changer for the nation.
Yes, an absolute game changer, and digitization of agriculture. We've already started to see that picking up momentum over the last few years. Sanjay Kapoor, 10 seconds to you. Pankaj believes this is going to be a game changer in many ways.
Of course, I can only sum up in 10 seconds by saying that a clear thought leader, presentation with a grandeur plan and vision. I think now the devil lies in the detail of executing these partnerships in a fashion where these can be monetized for the returns that one is hoping for. Because up to now, a traditional telco has never delivered great revenues out of digital services. This will be the first time, and if this can be delivered and made to work, it will be a benchmark of sorts across the globe.
Absolutely, and that is what investors are going to be watching very, very closely. Mr. Kamakoti, 10 seconds to you, sir.
So this is a very nice combination of social media platform with a telecommunication platform, along with position-based services platform. I think this is setting up a very nice framework for the Industry 4 that we are talking of. I think this will really be a very good game changer, along with the necessary security that's needed for the country.
Yes, that caveat is well taken, sir. You've been making that point. Security is a priority. Sandeep Naik, 10 seconds.
As a global investor sitting in the Indian market, I've always been looking at which player can truly compete with the FANG group of companies, right? The Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Google, which are $1 trillion in market cap. And I think we have found the platform that can truly put the J in front of the FANG group of companies and be the one platform coming out of India that will compete with some of the global biggies. And we should hopefully be a part of that journey and be proud if we can make that happen.
Well, is it the answer to the FANG stocks from India? And that certainly seems to be the bet. Mr. Chandrasekhar, I'll give you the closing comments, sir.
Well, the ambition is clearly a global leadership. And no company has been able to achieve any kind of global leadership without very, very deep research capability. And that's one area where India has been lacking. One hopes that this is also going to trigger a massive buildup of research capability in the private sector in India, which is essential for achieving that leadership position. And if that happens, I think we should all be happy that it could be a proud.
Okay, so not just global leadership, but global leadership backed with IP leadership. That's the word coming in here from our panel. But this could be an inflection point, a game-changing moment, just as we saw when Jio was launched and what it did as far as telecom services are concerned. Mr. Chandrasekhar, Sandeep Naik, Mr. Kamakoti, Sanjay Kapoor and Pankaj Mohindroo, many thanks for joining us here on this special CNBC TV 18 discussion. Well, the other big highlight from the Reliance Industries AGM was the announcement coming in from the foundation's chairperson, Neeta Ambani. She believes that as soon as a vaccine for COVID-19 becomes available, the Reliance Foundation will use the digital distribution and supply chain to ensure that it does reach large parts of India. Take a look and goodbye.
As soon as the corona vaccine becomes available, we will volunteer by using the same digital distribution and supply chain to ensure that the vaccine reaches every nook and corner of our country. It is also my dream to bring the Olympics to India. I believe in our youth, and I have no doubt if we encourage and empower them, they will make these dreams come true and make our country proud.
Morning, Captain.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Can there be two captains?
If there's enough space.
The all-new 6-seater MG Hector Plus. It's a human thing.
9 to 5 job, arey 5 to 9 job, bhag daud, all the time job. The roaming wala job, the deadline wala job, or are you living in the market wala job?
Life is full of options. Choose a job and earn on your own terms. Choose to become an LIC agent. It's more than a job. It's career insurance. Be your own boss. Be an LIC agent. Ab life set hai.
नहीं empty है. Winner gets to drive.
Oi, ये cheater रुक.
Now with AMT, Renault Triber, space for everything.
Renault, passion for life.
Network 18 brings you the biggest story of our times. The war on Corona. 1,200 reporters, 20 channels, 15 languages. We stay out so that you can stay home.
Thank you to our 60.54 crore viewers.
The Network 18 Group, India's largest media network.
Presenting the all-new Harrier 2020 with panoramic sunroof, 6-speed automatic transmission, 70 PS Cryotech diesel engine. Experience the thrill of power and the comfort of automatic. Harrier 2020. Test drive now.
Grabbing the eyeballs of India's business community since 1999. CNBC TV 18, India's #1 English business news channel.
साथियों, विस्तारवाद का युग समाप्त हो चुका है। ये युग विकासवाद का।
Chinese are using negotiations as a game of deception.
China has incurred some casualties. We don't want each side to feel bad, so we play it down.
Banning 59 Chinese acts does not violate any WTO arrangements. It has done so on national security grounds.
As India and China face off, CNBC TV 18 decodes the geopolitical impact. Follow the leader. Meet the biggest deal makers.
Jio has played a huge role in digital transformation, especially over the last 4 or 5 years in India.
Industry mavens.
I would say that it is exactly in times like this where high quality board and governance standards have to be maintained.
And global business influencers.
We will have to be looking for more digital and technology-driven investments in a country like India.
As they share transformative insights, ideas and trends. Big deal. At these times on CNBC TV 18 and CNBCTV18.com.
This is TV 18 and you're watching CNBC TV 18.